Hi! I wanted to talk today about something. The purposes of connecting, the purposes of remembering that we're one, the purposes of remembering that we have not separated, that we're still just as God created us. And we just forgot, and that forgetfulness is what's costing us all the misery and all the suffering. And then we limit ourselves by the suffering. And we believe that we need to suffer. We believe that this is our preordained right. Okay, suffering is something that we are born to have, and if there is no suffering, there is no gain. No pain, no gain. This type of feeling goes through all of our minds all the time. You go to school, without the homework, you can't live through the day. You go, then there's exams. Without dealing with exams, you can't finish schools, and your life will be affected. You go to work without your deadlines, your life is going to be affected. Your livelihood. If you're a homeless person on the streets, it's the same issue. If there's always suffering inside. It could be internal suffering, external suffering, both usually. But we never stop and think why. There's a human condition requires suffering. And does it? Is that it? Is that what we got created for, to suffer, and from this suffering to learn something? I'm pondering on the thought that maybe it's the suffering is just to remind us that we don't need to suffer. Maybe it's just that. Maybe the suffering is there to tell us that we can learn another way. It must be another way. Maybe it's not preordained. Maybe this is a way we remind ourselves that if we look within, then we can learn without suffering. Because, a lot of suffering comes from us trying to escape our thoughts over traumas or dramas or whatever. But if we were to look within and inquire, not with our judgmental voice, our own personal judgmental voice, but with the patient voice of an observer, and see, okay, so this is what happens with me, this is what I go through, these are my triggers, this is what happens, this is what creates me uncomfort. Maybe that's all why the external suffering is. And when you start looking, and then you start being aware of your own causation of suffering, then you can start questioning further. Like, maybe suffering is not necessary. Maybe I can learn without. And learning, what is learning? If you look at the Course in Miracles, the only thing we have to do is to remember what we were created as, not as bodies, not as separate beings, but oneness. And this is a similar thought in many religions and spiritual learnings. We're created as oneness, and we experience it as separate. And maybe this is where the suffering is a memory. We reminded that this is what we don't want. We don't need to be constantly reminded. Imagine how often do you need to step on the same physical objects that hit you in the head until you learn that you should step on it. It usually takes once, maximum twice. But we do it in our emotions, with our emotions and our thoughts all the time. We keep hitting and hitting and hitting ourselves in the head, and thinking that we can learn this way, but we're forgetting to look deeper and see that learning is, if we're one, and in that oneness we know everything and we are perfect love, then knowledge is already there. We don't need to learn anything. Somebody told me the other day that they wanted to perfect themselves, or they need to improve themselves. And no, that's not the point. If we're all one, then we don't need to improve anything. We don't need to improve anything in ourselves as that perfect oneness. We need to improve our connection, our understanding of that perfect oneness, and our desire to be with it, our desire to be part of it or memory of it, but none. If we are part of perfect oneness, then why would we need to improve? So all of these questions come up with just looking at suffering, and how it is. It starts off with the first cry, isn't it? As a body comes into this world, and the first they do is suffer, because they were pulled out from a womb where everything was provided for them into things where they need to do themselves, and it seems like suffering. And maybe this is why we think that there is no life without suffering. What I'm trying to figure out is there a life without it? If you look at the more enlightened people, or I've never been to India, but they say they're on the streets, or monks, or anybody on YouTube that that actually has the integrity, they don't seem to need to suffer. They take the life peacefully and gently and kindly, and that means to themselves as well as to everybody around them. And in that, there is no suffering. There is memory, there is understanding, there is acceptance. And maybe that's all we need. Maybe life's goal should be not that big. It should be just look within, see how you make yourself suffer, and see how you torture yourself about things that are a lot less meaningful. You just gave them the meaning all these years back and forgot to look back, and forgot to adjust, and maybe let go and be kinder and gentler to yourself and everybody else around you. Because once you start getting gentler to yourself, that starts penetrating and shining through you, and everybody around you benefits from that search within. So maybe let's just do that. Every time we want to be upset at something, because that's also suffering. Being upset is not being in peace, and therefore it's suffering. So every time you're looking into being upset at something, stop yourself and think, do I really want to suffer right now? Do I deserve to suffer? Why should I suffer? There is no need to suffer, and there is no need for anybody to suffer. We're all part of that bigger, greater oneness, bigger, greater connection to each other. And that connection will teach us how to be bigger and greater and kinder. Worth a try.